Okay, so today I'm going to teach you how to hand lay facial hair, and what we're going to use is some crepe hair that's pre-separated. So it's going to have multiple colors layered within that, and you're going to need a good pair of scissors that are nice and sharp, a comb, some spirit gum, and I'm using a reference photo. What we're going to use is Khal Drogo is the look that we're going for. So I'm going to do the beard first, and then we'll do the makeup look after that's applied. Okay, so the first step is to take some sort of toner. I'm using witch hazel, and you're going to take a cotton ball and clean the face where you're going to apply the beard. You want to make sure there's no oil there, and that way the glue and the hair sticks better to the face. Okay, so I'm going to start with a really long piece because the beard I'm doing is long under the chin. And this piece tapers on both sides, going up and down. And what I want to do is, I'm basically going to cut that in half and use half of it. So what I do is separate the hair so you have smaller pieces to work with, and then I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm going to have, this is Carla, my assistant, and she's going to hold this piece for me. So I have a nice sharp cut, and that's what you want to make sure that you have. I have a trash bag on the floor so that I can trim off the excess pieces, and I have a really nice clean cut, okay? And what you want to do is hold that stable so you don't get any stray hairs. And I'm also going to do some spirit gum. So I have a bottle of spirit gum, and I have a brush that I'm going to use. I should have started with spirit gum before I cut the hair. So I'm going to take my brush and dip it in the spirit gum, and be careful when you're using spirit gum to make sure that it stays on the inside of the bottle. When you close it up, you can glue it closed, so you want to be careful not to get too much on the outside. And then I'm going to start under the chin in the middle, and I'm just going to brush some spirit gum on, and you want it to get tacky. So what you can do with your brush is tap it, and if you start to see little spider web pieces, that's good. That means it's tacky. You can also take a sponge and you can dab it, and that kind of helps also make it a little more tacky. You can hear it stick to the sponge. And then I'm going to take the hair that I've gotten, and I'm going to start by just pushing it straight on to that spirit gum. So you're making it look like it's growing out. You don't want any of the hairs to be crushed. That's why I cut it nice and straight. And I'm going to continue this way, just starting under the chin, working out, and then working up. So you want to think about it like shingles of a house. You start at the bottom and you build on top of it. The other reason that it's good to start on the bottom is you can make mistakes down here, and then it'll get covered up. As you work on it longer, you're going to get better. So when you do the very top layer, that part has to look perfect. So you want to make sure you're getting better or getting the hang of it as you go. So I'm always going back and trimming this just to make sure there's no stray hairs, so that it has a really good look once it's attached. And you're just going to let it sit there and dry, so you don't want to pull on it very much. I want to make sure I'm getting this long enough, so I might want to put a few really long pieces down at the bottom. And the other thing is this hair is blended with lots of colors. It's not just one color, so you want to make sure when you're blending your hair or choosing the color that you mix it together. Okay, so this is a close-up. You can see it's not perfect, but it's starting to kind of stick. And like I said before, you can kind of cover up where you don't have it perfect, as long as the top layer is good. So I've got kind of the base layer. I'm gonna start building up to get the hair pattern. Here's the picture so you can remember. So what I'm looking at is that shape that's on the chin, and that's what I'm gonna start to build up to. So what you can do is paint the glue in that pattern. And if you find that you're getting hairs, like a lot of times you'll get hairs stuck to the brush and the glue might start to get too tacky, you can take some alcohol, 99% alcohol, and you're gonna just dissolve some of that spear gum into the alcohol so that it doesn't stick to your brush as you're working. So almost every like 4th time that I use the glue, I'm gonna clean the brush with alcohol. And then what we're doing here is I'm holding the pieces of hair in half, finding the middle. Carla's holding it for me tight on one side, and then I'm cutting it really crisply down the middle. And then I don't even move my hand, I just take it and I'm gonna start to apply it. And I know that's gonna be difficult on yourself to do that. So just have your station set up right in front of you and do your best to just try to use all your hands, both your hands. And you might also want to clean the glue off of your fingers as you're working. It might get stuck. And it's much easier if you just keep cleaning everything off instead of trying to work against the stray hairs that get stuck to things. And the sponge also gets sticky. And as I'm working, like some hairs get stuck to the face where I don't want them. So I'm just gonna try to pull them off as they get in the wrong spot. And because now I'm working like really close to the face, I wanna get the best pile of hair that I have. So I have a really nice one that looks fairly even, and it's much shorter. So at first I was starting with really big pieces. Now this is a much shorter piece that I'm going to work with. But it's also a little more brushed together and clean looking, so that's going to help to make this top layer look nice. And in the picture, this little part that goes up goes almost to the lips. I'm going to keep going. If you find your piles of hair are getting too clumpy and the hairs aren't going together, kind of brush them, hold them with one hand, and like pull the hair. And you might lose some, but as long as you're holding tight with one side and then pulling, it kind of helps to brush the hairs in one direction so that they're not all going in crazy different directions. Because like I said, we want them all going in the same direction to be able to put them on neatly, especially at the top. So I've been working on this front part, trying to get the right shape, and I'm just gonna do a thin layer here on the side to get the side of the beard. And then what I'll do is trim it so that it is more, let's say shorter on the side and then comes to that point. And I also need to add the mustache. And I have piles of hair already kind of separated. So as I'm working, I'm just taking a second to pause and like make a new pile. That way I can just keep working. I don't have to stop once I start going. And I'm going to even this up so it's all kind of jaggedy here. What I'm going to do is from the mustache, make it come straight up. So I just need to add a little more glue, and then I'll finish that front part. And my hair right now is really long, so if I take it and kind of pull those little clumps in half, I can separate it and then relay them on top of each other. So then they become shorter. I know you can't see this. They become shorter little piles because I don't want to waste all the hair. Because I'm gonna end up cutting this shorter, so I don't really want to put really long hair if I'm just gonna cut it off. And you can use the glue line to kind of help give you the right edge that you want. So I'm looking, I can see the highlight of where the glue is, where the light is shining on it, because it's kind of a shiny surface. And that's going to help me redraw this line here. And sometimes if you leave the glue too long, it dries. So I still have the shiny glue here, but it's kind of dry. So I need to add a little more. Okay, so I have gotten most of the beard down. All I need to put on is the mustache, but what I want to do first is trim the side of the beard because it's much thinner on this side, and then the middle will be long. So what I like to do generally is kind of to angle downward in the direction I'm cutting, or that I want it to go. So it's a little hard because I'm right-handed to do this side, but I will start here. You can take a brush, but you have to be careful because this hair is not really, it's not really securely attached. It's just really lightly attached. So you could lose a lot of hair if you try to brush it hard. So you just do it gently. And I'm gonna trim this at an angle so that it doesn't look like it is got a hard line to it. And I'm gonna trim it to about, the mustache comes down and I wanna trim it to about here. So this part wants to stay long. And you can just do a little bit at a time. It needs to be like half as short, but I don't want it to look weird because if I go too short, it might look funny because this isn't actually real beard. So I just slowly do it until it looks about right. So that side's good. Let's go to this side. So just be really gentle if you're going to use a comb. Really do your best to not remove too much hair. And the most important thing really is to get it to look symmetrical. And that can be kind of tricky. So in applying the hair, you have to make it look symmetrical, and then in trimming it as well. So it's always good to stop and just look at it in the mirror again and decide if it's where you want it to be. So that's the first kind of poof, and then there's going to be a second little poof down at the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to do the mustache, and I'm just going to lay down some glue first and kind of go through it really fast. You don't have to do too much of like the shingling effect, just maybe 2 layers, so start right at the lip. And the spear gum is really stinky, so kind of hold your breath and take breaths when you can. It'll start to dry, it won't be quite as bad. And I'm going to start in the center and work my way out. And it's going to be really long at first, and then you'll trim it shorter. And this top layer really has to be the best that you've done. So the very top, make sure you have a nice clean cut with your hair and really look at it and try to stick it on so there's no bent hairs. And especially when you're using black hair like this, you can see everything. So you want to do the best that you can. want to do a long piece on either side of the mustache that goes into the beard. Okay, so now I'm going to trim the mustache. I want to make sure the sides are long, so I'm going to hold them to the side and then tip your head up for me. And I want to just find the lip and start trimming it to match. And you can cut it long first so that you can kind of get rid of some of it so you can see it. And then you can get closer. There you go. So I'm going to take the mustache and just kind of pull it into the beard. There's a few stragglers, but that's okay. You're good. And then maybe there's just a couple stray hairs. You just refine till it's exactly what you want. You can also use a brush and like a little hairspray to get this to lay how you want. But right now this is looking good. So if I were to show you my research again, that beard is pretty close. And now I'm going to just do a quick makeup with some highlights and shadows. I'm going to put some shading powders and highlights as well. And then I'm going to do the dark eyeliner, eyeshadow, and a scar on the side. So I'm going to try to do this really quick and just sit back and watch.